Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see current affairs of 25th February 2022. So in this lecture, we are going to focus on important articles which are very much relevant from our UPSC point of view. Actually, today's paper is full of Russia-Ukraine conflict. So we are going to discuss that. If you want me to take a separate lecture on that Russia-Ukraine issue, I will be coming up with 10 to 15 minutes of video. So in that video, we are going to discuss the geography of Ukraine and as well as Russia and important geographical locations. And even we need to know about history of conflict. So history which mainly starts from World War II onwards. Okay, and we have to know about what is the impact of that conflict in India. So that is very relevant, okay, very much relevant from our UPSC mains. And you will be getting question like, so ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, so how it will impact India? Because Ukraine also asked help from India. So because of this, so this issue which will be very much relevant from our UPSC point of view. So now let us try to see the first topic. So before saying that, let's get started with our discussion with a quote. So again, one motivation quote. It isn't where you came from. It isn't where you came from. It's where you're going that counts. So this quote is very much relevant from our UPSC point of view because many aspirants who are not only from the cities but even aspirants who are coming from the very remote areas, even from the tribal areas. So it isn't like where you came from, either you are coming from a rich background family or like a poor family, or even if you are coming from a remote areas, it is not at all count, but you are going, but it's where you are going that counts. So whether you are going to crack this UPSC or not, so that is the thing that mainly seen. It is not that where you came from. Okay, so prelims is very near, so try to focus on prelims and try to increase your hours of study and try to practice prelims test series as many as possible and try to attempt at least 50 to 100 questions daily. Then the chance of clearing prelims will be very high. And try to focus on current affairs, and you have to connect current affairs with the static syllabus, and in this way you can get questions in your prelims, right? And now let us try to see the first topic. It is regarding Russia-Ukraine issue. So title says world shocked by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. So what happened yesterday? Russia attacked Ukraine by MiG-21. Okay, by using this MiG-21, so Russia mainly attacked this Ukraine. So Russia mainly attacked especially one important area, okay, that is present in the eastern Ukraine town of here Chugiv. Chugiv, it is a city which is mainly attacked by Ukraine, and even capital city airport it is also attacked. And here, why it is cause of concern? Because already if you are talking about any relation between India and other country, we are going to talk about Indian diaspora, correct? So uncertainty mainly grips Indian students stuck in Ukraine. In Ukraine also many Indian students, they had been stuck. So this is one cause of concern for India because already airspace had been closed in Ukraine. And next topic, it is about shaking up Europe's security architecture. So now let us try to see these three articles together. And this topic, it is important from international relations, which mainly comes under GS paper 2. And for sure this year you can get a question in your prelims and even in your mains regarding this Russia-Ukraine. It may be like based on the math questions also we can get in especially prelims, so don't neglect this topic. And if you're talking about what is this Russia-Ukraine issue, already you know that from last December, okay, from November 2021 onwards, so across this Russia-Ukraine border, that's the increasing of military, okay, military of Russian side, that is mainly increasing. And what happened here is, now at present Russia attacked Ukraine. So the first act began with a meeting between US and Russia, and that mainly held in June last year. In last year June, so the first act began with a meeting between US and Russia, and in that meeting they mainly promised for reverse 7 years of relentless US-Russia acrimony. Acrimony is nothing but illness, or we can say like bitterness that is present between the two countries. So already we know that after World War II, so there were two power blocks which mainly emerged, that is USSR and USA, right? So at that time onwards, we can see there is a bitterness that developed between USA and as well as Russia, and these two are two rivalries. So recently in June last year, that means in June 2021, so here the meeting between US and as well as Russia which mainly held, and in this meeting they promised to reverse 7 years of relentless US-Russia acrimony. So in this context, Mr. Biden's decision it is to reach out to Mr. Putin signal US geopolitical rebalancing. Already you know that. So USA had become very much weak. So it is one evidence I can say, like because of withdrawal of USA from Afghanistan. So we can say the power of USA had been decreased. So now USA want to reach this Russia. It is mainly signaling that USA want to go for rebalancing of geopolitical importance, and even it is mainly seeking modus vivendi. So what is the meaning of this modus vivendi? So you have to know the meaning of this type of some keywords. And if you know that keywords, you can use this type of keywords whenever you are writing your mains answer as well. So modus vivendi means nothing but agreement or arrangement, allowing conflicted parties to coexist peacefully, either indefinitely or until a final settlement is reached. Okay, so until a final settlement is reached, or for an indefinite period they can go for maintaining of peace. Okay, this can be done through an arrangement or an agreement. So this is called as modus vivendi. Okay, US want to rebalance its power in geopolitically, and it is mainly seeking this modus vivendi with Russia, and it is also focusing on disengagement from the conflicts in Europe and even West Asia to enable sharper US focus on domestic challenges. And even here USA which is facing domestic challenges and even external challenges. External challenges mainly posed by this China. China, it is like a growing military power, economic power day by day, and it is posing some challenges for this USA. And at present we can say the Cold War like situation that is present between this USA and as well as China. So mainly to come out of these challenges, it is also going to come up with this modus vivendi with Russia as well. So in this context, Russia saw this re-engagement, it is an opportunity, and it will be helpful especially to revive Russia's flagging economy, and even so this agreement will be helpful to expand its freedom of political action globally. So in this way here Russia will also having some advantages. Okay, it will have the opportunity to revive the flagging economy of Russia, and even it will be very much helpful for freedom of political action globally as well. And Russia mainly seeks strategic portion of North Atlantic Treaty Organization and US policies. So because of some US policies and NATO expansion, here it is having some threats for Russia actually. So Russia repeatedly says that because of this expansion of this NATO, that is North Atlantic Treaty Organization, so whenever the US which is mainly going for expansion of this NATO. So if you want to go to the background regarding this NATO, so after World War II, so here if you see there were two power blocks which was formed at that time. One was USA and second one was USSR. USSR on one side and USA on one side. So USA came up with this security pact, and this security pact here is North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And USSR also came up with one security pact, that is Warsaw Pact. So what happened after this USA which formed this NATO, and recently and after 1990s, okay, in 1991 disintegration of USSR happened. So after this disintegration of USSR, here USA which started expanding of this NATO, okay, and earlier, so which are the countries which are part of this USSR, they also joined this NATO. And recent in 2020 also one country joined this NATO, and now Ukraine also want to join this NATO. So because of this, Russia which is mainly having some cause of concern, because whenever this NATO forces they are coming and standing across the border between Russia and as well as Ukraine, means it will be having some threat for its security and territorial integrity. So because of this, Russia which mainly opposes the move of Ukraine to join this NATO, because the security depth or strategic depth will be decreased. So we are going to talk about the strategic depth in the next lecture. We are going to talk about separately regarding this Russia-Ukraine crisis. So if you're talking about this article, which mainly says that because of this expansion of this NATO, so it is mainly violating the promises which are made prior to the breakup of the Soviet Union. And whenever this Ukraine want to join this NATO, or whenever the Ukraine accession to this NATO, that will also cross this Russia's red lines, and it mainly poses security threat for this Russia. So this is one of the important issue which is mainly faced by Russia. And here, if you are talking about NATO expansion, which mainly started after disintegration of USSR. So actually earlier these countries are part of this USSR, but after disintegration of USSR, so these countries like Estonia here, Latvia and Lithuania, and as well as Poland and Czech Republic, and sixth one is Slovakia, and here we have Hungary and Romania, okay, and Slovenia and Croatia and Montenegro, Albania, North Macedonia and Bulgaria. So these are the countries which mainly joined this NATO after this 1997. And recent in 2020 also New Macedonia, which mainly joined this NATO. So this is the one cause of concern, because so here it is the one of the, if you see here, it is a one power block, and let us say this is a one power block. So in this USSR, after disintegration of this USSR, Russia, it is one of the biggest country, right? So if you see here, USA and Russia, they are mainly the opposite powers. That means these are the some powers, like we can say these are against each other. So whenever Russia, which is considering USA as enemy, so whenever what happened, this NATO forces which are coming and which is standing across this Russia-Ukraine border, means which will be very much threat for this Russia. For example, if there is a one country here and another country here, if there are some countries that are present here between these two, means they will be acting as a buffer, right? So if there is no countries, whenever these countries are also joining these countries, means there will be no buffer countries. So that means that will lead to this strategic depth. So this is the concept of this strategic depth. And if you are talking about NATO, actually if you are talking about reality of NATO, it is a weakened glue. So why this NATO, it is a weakened glue? Because NATO countries today, they span a geography of unequal economic development. So if you are talking about the countries which are part of this NATO, so those countries, they are having uneven or unequal economic development, and we can also see large amount of diversity of political tradition and even history consciousness that is mainly seen in these countries. So because of this, whatever the original glue that mainly holded this NATO together regarding this ideological strategy, okay, if you are talking about ideological solidarity or strategy that was present initially when this NATO was formed, was mainly this group was against communist expansion. But now what happened here, due to the collapse of this USSR, so communism and Warsaw Pact, it is also not much relevant now. So there is no ideology now in NATO to oppose this communism, communist expansion. So because of this, now we can see this NATO, it is a weakened glue. And if you are talking about this current crisis, especially seen in Ukraine, which has illustrated the divisions. And because of this current crisis in Ukraine, which also exposes the limitations of US ability to bridge them. And even if you are talking about this NATO, so this NATO from 2008 onwards, which is pressurizing Ukraine to be the part of this NATO and to take the membership of NATO. Okay, and even what happened because of this pressurization, so Russia annexed Crimea in year 2014. Okay, and even in Ukraine, especially in the eastern part of Ukraine, there were some separatist groups or separatist movements that are mainly happening in this eastern Ukraine, especially in this Donbas region. And there were a number of agreements, or we can say like accords, which came into picture. So you have to know that accords also. We are going to discuss that in next lecture. So in this lecture, in this article which mainly talked about Minsk Accord, we have Minsk 1 and Minsk 2, but they are not much successful. Okay, and Ukraine also considered this is an unfair outcome, and the US has supported its efforts to reinterpret the accords to its advantage. So here on one side, this US want to come up with this Minsk Accord and it should be properly implemented. On another side, other countries like France, Germany, they are coming up with some agreements with the Russia here. So on one side, it is Russia which is mainly increasing its strength either economically and as well as it is also increasing the power regionally. But in recent months, what happened? US signaled that it would support the full implementation of this Minsk Accord. So it is a one thing which is not accepted by this Russia. So if you are talking about energy security is also one cause of concern for this Russia-Ukraine conflict. So US mainly have some interest, also divided NATO on energy security. Okay, so there is some issue regarding this energy security as well, because Russia and Germany, they came up with this Nord Stream 2. So we already discussed about this Nord Stream in our earlier lectures, right? So Russia and Germany, they came up with this Nord Stream 2, and this is a gas pipeline. So it is one of the cheapest source of energy for industry actually. So this Nord Stream 2, it is one of the cheapest source of energy. So what happened? So this stream, which is mainly used for gas supply for this European country. So what happened? This European country's dependence on this Russia will be increased because of this Nord Stream 2. So what happened? What is the fear of Ukraine? So earlier what happened? If you see, Russia is present here and Ukraine is present here. So Russia used to have pipelines that will be going through this Ukraine, and regarding this, Russia used to pay some transit charges for this Ukraine. So it will be the one important part of economy of Ukraine. But whenever this Russia which is coming up with this Nord Stream, that is through Germany, means it will be also reducing this transit charges for this Ukraine. So it is also one important cause of concern for Ukraine. And if you are talking about US geopolitical argument which is against this Nord Stream 2, okay, dovetails. So dovetails means what? So you have to know the meaning of this dovetails. Dovetails means nothing but if there are any two pieces are present and these two pieces are mainly joined together by some interlocking system, that is called as dovetails. So US geopolitical argument, it is against this dovetails. Okay, because it does not want this European countries to align with this Russia here. So this is the one important cause of concern here. So because of this, what happened? USA started imposing some sanctions on the countries which are mainly having some links or dovetails with Russia. So because of this, those countries on which these sanctions are imposed, so those countries, they are ramping up LNG import, that is liquefied natural gas import infrastructure, to increase imports from the USA rather than this Russia. So in this way, there are some differences that is mainly seen between USA and as well as Russia here. So this is about this topic. So here author mainly says that the manner in which NATO countries may implement the promised hard sanctions against Russia, that will demonstrate whether how much and how long this crisis will keep them united. Okay, so here this is the one question, like, so because of this differences that is seen between Ukraine and as well as Russia, and even US and European countries and Russia, so we need to watch how much and as well as how long this crisis they will keep them united. And author says that it is too early to say that Mr. Putin want to end this game, and it will leads to, whenever we are going for attacking of other country, that will leads to loss of life, and even that will lead to destruction, and even that will be having some political and as well as economic impact. So this is the gist of this topic, and now let us try to see the next topic. So this is about ploughing a new channel for India's food systems. So this article which is mainly focusing on India's food systems. So this article which is mainly giving some insights regarding, so what are the policies that we followed till now, and what is the way forward mainly to achieve the food security now, especially malnutrition. To address this malnutrition, what are the things that we need to follow? That is the thing which mainly said in this article, and this is very useful article for UPSC point of view. And this topic, it is important from GS paper 2 point of view, and especially from your mains. So if you see context, it mainly says that we are having this sustainable development goals. So how many sustainable developments we need to achieve? There are about 17 sustainable development goals. So whenever we want to achieve this 17 sustainable development goals, and we need to focus on transforming of our food systems. So why we need to focus? So let us try to see this article in detail, then you can understand why. So the United Nations Food System Summit, which mainly called for actions by government in 5 areas. So in 2021, United Nations Food System Summit, which mainly held, and it mainly said that we need to focus on 5 areas. So first one is we need to focus on nourish all people. So we need to provide nutrition for all the people, and we need to boost nature-based solutions rather than going towards artificial things. And next one is we need to focus on equitable livelihood, decent work for people, and even empowered communities. And fourth one is we need to build resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks, and stress. And we need to accelerate the means of implementation. So these are the 5 areas we need to focus, especially to transform the food systems in India. So this is a thing which is not said by me, but by United Nations Food System Summit. So here, whenever you want to come up with a transformation in our food, okay, we need to focus on science, we need to focus on society and policies, and we need to focus on sustainability, even on resource efficiency, circularity. So these are some areas of concern we need to focus now to go for transformation of our India's food system. So if you're talking about science and policy, so to understand that we need to go for some history. So in 1960s, at that time India do not have food security. So we used to depend upon the imports, and even one famous incident was especially you need to know to understand what was the situation during this 1960s, that is ship to mouth incident. So whatever the third grade food grains that we are getting from America, okay, so that grains directly enter into the mouth of people, even that didn't went to go downs as well. So this was one famous incident that we need to know to understand what was the situation during this 1960s in India. So after that, our government, which is mainly focused on to ensure the food security for the people. So in 1960s, government came up with this green revolution. So in this green revolution, our government, which mainly focused on high yield variety seeds, okay, high yield variety seeds, and even it focused on irrigation, proper irrigation, and even it mainly focused on using of pesticides, fertilizers, etc. So at that time only, what happened, there is increased use of fertilizers that is mainly seen in Indian agriculture. So because mainly we need to ensure food security, because there was widespread of hunger and poverty in India, and even because of hunger there were a number of deaths which were recorded. So mainly for that, we mainly focused on this green revolution, and we came up with some policy measures and development of institutional structure made to make this green revolution to be successful. Okay, and in this green revolution we also included some vast agriculture research and even technology transfer at the national level, state level, regional level, and even at local levels. And at that time, government also introduced this training and visit system. Training and visit system introduced in 1970s with assistance from the World Bank. Okay, so it was mainly helpful for the science society interference. And if you're talking about some data, although what happened after introducing of this green revolution in 1960s, we achieved food surplus. Like we went for growing of food which is surplus, and we became exporting country as well. Okay, so we have to keep this thing aside for some time. So even though now we became self-sufficient and we increased our food grain production, but what happened, even though some people, they are mainly facing some insecurity because there is no proper calorie intake, and whatever the nutrition indicators are there, so we are facing malnutrition, we are facing some hidden hunger, that is we can say like micronutrient deficiencies. So however, macro and micronutrient malnutrition is widespread. About 18.7% of women and 16.2% of men, they are unable to access through food to meet their basic nutritional needs. Okay, so about 18.7% and 16.2% of men and women respectively, they do not have access to this food grains to meet this basic nutritional needs. And about over 32% of children who are below 5 years of age, they are facing still underweight, as per even recently National Family Health Survey Phase 2 details mainly says. And even if you are talking about this global hunger index, India stands 101 out of 116 countries. So the India's rank is very bad, even though India became the food surplus country. Okay, so there is also a wide range of some concerns like poverty is there, malnutrition is there. So because of this, now we need to focus on second phase of green revolution, and we need to go for transition itself. So this is the thing which is mainly the idea of the author in this article. So country faces not only a single challenge, but we are facing some dual challenges. So what are those dual challenges? The first one is there is no proper nutritional security. So people, they are not getting their daily nutritional needs, and they need to address the problems like land productivity, which is mainly decreasing, and even land degradation is happening, and even we are seeing the loss of ecological services, and even we are seeing there is a change in the land use patterns. So these are the some important challenges that we are facing now. So because of climate change, some areas they are getting excess rainfalls. Due to this climate change, some areas do not getting proper rainfalls, and they are entering into drought, and there is expansion of deserts are happening, and because of increased use of groundwater, and because of increased use of pesticides, fertilizer, that is also leading to the salination of soils, and that led to decreasing of productivity of soils. So these are the some extra challenges that we need to face now, that we need to focus now. So here, if you are talking about need for transition, so what is this need? Okay, so if you are talking about approach of agriculture, it is for to provide the food security in the country. Okay, so we need to ensure food security. So this is one of the important aim of agriculture. So here, not only we should focus on food security, but even we need to focus on food system for sustainability, and we need to focus on better nutrition as well. So if you want to ensure the better nutrition and the sustainability, here we need to focus on food production, we need to focus on aggregation, we need to focus on processing, distribution and consumption as well. So we need to take into consideration as a whole like socio-economic and as well as physical context. So this is about this transition. So in this context, we need to focus on especially economic, environmental and as well as climate related challenges that we are facing now. So the theory of change, which is mainly focusing on sustainability, resource efficiency, how we are using those resources, how efficiently we are using those resources, and circularity. So these are the central pillars in the transforming of our food system in India. So these are the three important things that you need to remember. And if you are talking about sustainability, so whatever the agroclimatic approach that we are following now regarding this agriculture development, so we need to focus even on sustainability and as well as to ensure better nutrition. So for this, what we have to do, we have to harness spatial diversity of agriculture production, and we need to focus on principles of sustainability, and we need to focus on resource efficiency and as well as circularity. Okay, so here what is the way forward? What is the way forward? So here way forward is we need to keep policy in mind. We need to strengthen the food supply chains first of all, and we need to reinforce regional food systems, and we need to focus on food processing such that we can decrease the wastage of the food, and we need to focus on agriculture resilience and sustainability as well, and we need to focus on the challenges that are mainly because of this climate change as well. Okay, so these are the some important things that we need to focus. And finally, what are the policies are there? For example, at national level and state level, we have a number of policies. So we need to give the priority for those policies. For example, National Policy Guidelines 2012, and this one is National Resource Efficiency Policy of 2019. So these are the some important things that you need to remember regarding this topic. And now let us try to see next topic. It is regarding NATO. So again, this topic is important from your international relations, and this is regarding Russia-Ukraine issue. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So if you see this NATO, so now why this is in news? Already you know that Russia came up with attacks on Ukraine. Okay, Russia mainly attacked Ukraine in right. So what happened? Not only attacking Ukraine, across the border of Russia, Ukraine also there is increasing of military troop. Okay, military troops are increasing across this shared border. So because of this raised tensions which are seen across this border, and even entire world which is having some issues or some tensions regarding this increasing of military troop across this border, and even attacks which are mainly done on Ukraine by Russia here. So because of this, what happened, even there are several cities of Ukraine like capital Kyiv, which mainly came under attack as well. So because of this, now United Nations Security Council, which came up with an emergency meeting mainly to stop this invasion of Russia regarding this Ukraine, right? And in this context, USA President and even NATO, European Commission, they also mainly decided to impose some sanctions on this Russia. So if we are talking about what is this North Atlantic Treaty Organization, it is intergovernmental military alliance which mainly established by Washington Treaty, and this treaty was signed in year 1949 after World War II, and headquarters located in this Brussels, Belgium. So if you're talking about composition, if you're talking about its starting, okay, by founding member, okay, so there are about 12 countries that are mainly formed this NATO, and now because of this expansionist policy of this NATO, now the present members or like 30 members are present in this NATO. So it is one of cause of concern here. Like if you see this image, so this image, in this image, the blue color one, it is now the country which are part of this NATO. So recently North Macedonia, which mainly joined this NATO in 2020. Okay, so now what is the context here? So why it is a concern? Why this NATO is in news? So at the heart of its fears, the prospect of Ukraine joining NATO and NATO troops potentially stationed at the border with Russia. So actually from last year, that is from November-December onwards, there is increasing of escalations between this Russia and Ukraine is seen. So at that time the recent reason was like Ukraine want to join this NATO, and since 2018 onwards, Ukraine which is mainly pressured by the NATO to become the member of NATO. Okay, so Ukraine want to join this NATO. So because of this, this is the one sole reason that led to increasing of tensions between this Russia and Ukraine in the recent past. So if you're talking about NATO's historical record of its penchant for expansionism has been likely fueled such insecurities. So whenever Ukraine which is joining this NATO, means across this Ukraine and Russia border, there will be the standing of this NATO forces will be seen. So because of this standing of NATO forces, that will be the territorial integrity, that is a one issue, okay, issue of security and territorial integrity of Russia. So because of this, Russia do not want this Ukraine to join this NATO. So this is the first important issue that you have to remember. And after dissolution of this Soviet Union in 1991, so Eastern European military alliances, that is NATO. So here US came up with this military alliance, that is NATO, and Russia also came up with this Warsaw Pact, right? So at that time, Russia in 1997, which mainly signed Founding Act on Mutual Relations, Cooperation as well as Security. And what happened at present here, NATO, which is mainly providing some cooperative exchanges, communication hotlines, and even Cold War fail-safes, okay? So because of all these things, Russia annexed this Crimea in 2014. So now there are some strategic questions which are mainly says that, so if NATO, which mainly gives assurance that we are not going to expand, or whenever we are not going to include this Ukraine as a part of NATO, so this thing which will be helpful mainly to decrease this tensions between this Russia and Ukraine. So this is the thing which mainly said in this article. And now let us try to see next topic is regarding Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So this article, it is important from your polity point of view, which mainly comes in a GS paper 2. So now let us try to see context why this PMLA is in news. So very recently, Maharashtra's Minister of Minority Affairs and Skill Development and Nationalist Congress Party leader, he is the second minister, okay, he was arrested by this enforcement directorate under this Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So because of this Prevention of Money Laundering Act will be very important for your UPSC prelims and even mains. So now let us try to see some facts regarding this Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So here, this act, which mainly forms a core of the legal framework put in place by India to combat money laundering. So actually this act which came up as a legal framework which is mainly focusing on how to prevent this money laundering. And next one is, so what are the provisions which are present under this act? They are mainly applicable to all financial institutions. For example, banks like RBI, mutual funds, insurance companies, and even some financial intermediaries. So for all this, so this act will be applicable. And if you are talking about this Prevention of Money Laundering Amendment Act of 2012, it mainly adds a concept of reporting entity, okay, reporting entity, which would include the banking company or any financial institutions or intermediaries. They will be also included now. And under this Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002, which mainly levied fine up to 5 lakhs. But here this amendment which mainly removed this upper limit. And it mainly provides some provincial attachment and confiscation of property of any person who involved in such activities. So these are the 3 important amendments which are made to this Prevention of Money Laundering Act through this 2012. So if you see this infographic, then you can get some insights into the recent amendments of 2012. So first one is under this section 3 of this Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So it mainly says mere possession of proceeds of crime is new offence. So it means nothing but if any person X who deposits the money in the name of Y, so Y will also be punished. So it is nothing but this proceeds, okay, proceeds. And if you are talking about these amendments, so earlier it was like rupees 30 lakhs, rupees 30 lakh threshold limit is present. But now it is mainly removed. Even if you went for a laundering of rupees 10,000 also, it will become under this act and it will be a punishable offence. And if we are talking about penalty, so rigorous imprisonment of at least 3 years and up to 7 years. So rigorous means harsh, full, okay. And next one is there is no upper limit of fines. Earlier it was like 5 lakh rupees, but now there is no upper limit of fine, okay. So this is about this amendment. And now let us try to see next topic. It is regarding Sri Lankan Navy detains 22 fishermen. So every time, okay, I think at least once in a week you will be getting article regarding this India-Sri Lanka fishermen issue. Already we discussed about this, what is Park Bay, what is this agreement between India and Sri Lanka and even Kachativu Islands, etc. So now let us try to see just what is written in this article, because already video became very much lengthy now, okay. So you have to revise the issue. Already I discussed that issue number of times. If time permits, I will be coming up with a separate video. Don't worry about that. And now if you see the context, it mainly says that in two incidents, Sri Lankan Navy on Wednesday, they detained about 22 fishermen, okay. So Sri Lankan Navy which mainly detained 22 fishermen of Nagapattinam and even Karaikal for allegedly fishing in their territory. Okay, so for example, let us take this is international maritime boundary. Sometimes unexpectedly, so fishermen they will be crossing this line, and Sri Lankan Navy they will come and they will be detaining these fishermen, and even they will be catching their boats as well. So if we are talking about details, so when these fishermen they were fishing near this international maritime boundary line, so a patrolling vessel of the island of Navy which mainly surrounded the boat, okay. So on all the fishermen they are detained and they taken to the Jaffna for further questioning, okay. And in the second incident here this Navy also seized 2 Indian trawlers, and totally in these 2 incidents they detained about 22 fishermen, and they made eligible for poaching in the Sri Lankan waters. So if you see this map, this is a map of Tamil Nadu here. Here we have Rameshwaram and here we have Park State, and this is our Jaffna, okay. This is our Jaffna. And between this we will be having international maritime boundary. So here we have Kachativu Islands as well. So if we are talking about what are the recent initiatives which are taken by the government to address this issue of India and Sri Lanka fishermen issue. So as you all know, that international maritime boundary line is a very imaginary line. So because of this we can go for geotagging of boats, and as well as we can have a watches of this geotagging, especially that can be given for this fishermen. And even here we can go for GPS sets that will helpful mainly to identify they came very much near to this imaginary line, so they should not cross this line. So this is the one important thing. And next one is government also came up with this deep sea fishing scheme, okay. Earlier they used to go for bottom trawling. So bottom trawling means nothing but whenever this boat which is mainly moving, so it will be having a nets. So these nets are like whatever the thing which is present even at the bottom of this sea, that will be taken out. So whenever they are going for taking out of everything which is present in the bottom, means that will be leads to exploitation of these resources, and finally that will leads to extinction of this fish species. So instead of that we can go for deep sea fishing. So under this deep sea fishing scheme, so here this scheme which is mainly promoted as an alternate for this bottom trawling by this Tamil Nadu fishermen on this Park Bay. Okay, then this scheme which mainly envisages the provision of 2,000 deep sea fishing boats in place of trawlers. Okay, in place of trawlers they mainly provided about 2,000 deep sea fishing boats as well. And this scheme which mainly aims to put end to the disputes between the two countries. Okay, so this is about this topic, and now let us try to see some important articles. And now, which are the articles now we are discussing? They are mainly focusing on what will be the impact of this Russia-Ukraine crisis on India. So first one is crisis, a chance for India to export more wheat. So if you are talking about economic perspective, so we can talk about imports and as well as exports. Okay, if you are talking about exports, the first one is there is chance of increasing of export of wheat from India to Russia and as well as Ukraine. Because due to this Russia-Ukraine crisis, it might give India an opportunity in the global market. Okay, and domestic exporters should mainly tap this opportunity, because already you know that India, we can go for rabi crop of wheat, and in the especially North Indian states, they will be going for this growing of wheat because of winter disturbances and winter rainfall in that region. So it is very much good for growing of this rabi crop, that is wheat crop. Okay, so India has a pool like 24.2 million tons, which is twice more than the buffer. Okay, so because of this conflict, actually Russia and Ukraine, they are mainly producing this wheat, but because of this conflict, there might be decreasing of production of this wheat in this Russia and Ukraine. So now it will provide an opportunity for India to increase the exports. So this is the first important impact. And next one is stock tank as Russia invades Ukraine. So whenever Russia which is invading the Ukraine, because of increasing tensions, it will be having some negative impact on the stocks. Okay, we will be having some negative impact. And next one is monitoring situation in Russia. So already you know that India, it is a very much famous for this pharmaceutical products, and India, it is one of the major exporter of this pharmaceutical products, right? So because of this issue, we can see there might be having some impact on this exports of pharmaceutical products to this Russia and Ukraine. And next one is Indian tea exporters, they mainly fret over uncertainty due to war. So because of this issue between Russia and Ukraine, we are also having some uncertainty, like whether we are going to have our tea exports to this Russia and Ukraine or not. Okay, again this is one of negative impact. And next one is economy set to recover, high crude price is a worry. So now we are seeing there is an economic slowdown, and even we are expecting to have some economic growth in this year, and our government is mainly expected that there is cooling of this crude oil prices in global market. And even in our budget we discussed that fertilizer subsidy, which is mainly decreased because of this expectations of decreasing of crude oil prices. But Russia, it is one of the major 13% of crude oil that we will get from Russia. Okay, and Russia, it is an important country which is also producing like 13% of global crude oil. So because of this issue, Russia and Ukraine issue, then what happened, there might be rising of this global crude oil prices, and earlier it was like $75 per barrel, and now it increased to $96 per barrel. And if this situation continues, it may also reach to $125 per barrel. So because of this, it will be affecting India's economy. So in this way, these articles which are mainly focusing on impact, positive impact and negative impact of this Russia issue on India. And now let us try to say next question, that is a yesterday's questions. So first one is, consider the following statements regarding desert adaptation. So first one is hygroscopic skin to absorb moisture. Yes, of course. And this one is large pinnae to function as efficient heat radiators. Yes. And this one is impermeable skin. It is not impermeable skin, but it is permeable skin because it will absorb atmospheric moisture. So you can eliminate this third statement. Correct statement is 2, 1 and 2 only. And next question is regarding acid rains. So acid rains are mainly because of deterioration of forest. Yes. And destruction of automotive coating, that is our ozone, and even some important coating. And next one is reduction of photosynthetic rate. Yes. And next one is increasing of methane emission. It is not regarding this methane emission from wetlands. So correct option will be the 1, 2 and 3, that is option 2 again. So this is the answer for the yesterday's questions. And the today's questions are there. The first one is regarding oil spill and second one is regarding global warming. So please try to read this question, give your answer in the comment box. Okay. So before ending or before concluding this lecture, I want to make a small announcement. Already you know that we came up with this mains answer writing program, and new batch of this mains answer writing program that is going to be started from March 1st onwards. And if you believe me, if you believe in my work, so please try to join this course for sure, because I am 100% confident that you are going to complete your GS syllabus, GS1, GS2, GS3 and GS4 along with SS and case studies practice within 1 year. And we will be giving you weekly targets, like we are not going to give more than 3 or 4 chapters in a week. So completing 3 or 4 chapters in a week, it is a very easy task. And even answer writing, it is a very important, because you have to develop writing skills. Because in one question you will be having 2 or 3 sub questions. For example, let me give you example like, so what is the impact of non-cooperation movement, and what are the important reasons for the failure of this non-cooperation movement, and what is the significance. So in this way you will be getting 2 or 3 sub questions in every question. So to answer all those sub questions, you need to have a conceptual clarity, and first of all you need to know how questions will be asked, right? So if you are practicing this type of questions, means you will be getting some ideas and you will start thinking in that dimensions, and you will be seeing that topic in a other way. And in this course we are giving weekly targets, and based on that weekly target, daily one question is given, not more than that, and you have to sit for at least 10 to 15 minutes a day and try to write that answer, and you have to send that answer to our mail ID, so that there will be evaluation. And we also provide you model answer, even though if you don't know answer for that question, so if you see this model answer, you will be getting at least 5 to 7 points in that question, in that answer, then that will be very much enough to write any answer regarding that topic. So this course, it is absolutely beneficial, and many students, they are improving their answer writing skills, and I am getting a much positive feedback. So the course cost is also very less. It is like 7,200 for 1 year. For 1 year you are going to pay 7,200, and you can search in any channel or in any websites regarding this type of course, and I will be saying that, and I will be challenging you that. So this type of course that you cannot get anywhere with this affordable price. So please be hurry up, and registrations will be open from tomorrow onwards. So please try to join this course. So this will be absolutely beneficial. And if you have any queries, you can call to this number 8074765513. Okay, I am the academic director of this Rathod's IAS Academy, and you can talk to me directly regarding this course on this number. And the details of this course are given in description box. And one more thing is, not only this, we also launched a number of courses. That courses details you can get in our Rathod's IAS Academy website. There you can watch the demo videos also. So by this, I am concluding. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to Rathod's IAS Academy, and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. Thank you so much.